Okay, guys, let's start by looking at the assignment. So let's just assume that you've already gone through the overview, the resources, and that you have foundational knowledge of what REST API is. There's introduction articles and YouTube explanations, even more so than you'll find within this article. Let's just go ahead into the instructions. Um, in this assignment, you will be drawing out the end-to-end business process of someone who is buying a movie tickets online using client server UML sequence diagram. What does that mean? Let's look at the example. So UML means Unified Modeling Language. And this is basically the layout, right? So you have a user, you insert a card for an ATM transaction process, you are interacting with the machine requests a pin, you insert a pin. This is very simple diagramming in order for any developer to basically start getting on coding this project, right? So this is what we want to do. Okay, folks, now we have a idea of what a UML diagram is, but how do we get to this UML diagram? Okay, so I just opened up a notepad document, a very simple document. We're going to start spelling out use cases, right? So let's just try to see what the use cases are within this flow chart and see if we could replicate that first in our notepad. User inserts bank card. ATM accepts bank card. ATM now prompts for PIN. User enters PIN. ATM accepts PIN or ATM rejects PIN. Okay, so we just basically, and by the way, they use the word verify and, same premise. Again, this is not going to be perfect. I don't believe Dave is expecting this flow or these use cases to be perfect, but what they want to see is a diagramming of your logical process. So in the particular assignment, it's movie theater purchases. In this case, we're talking about ATM transaction process. Fine. So right here, we're starting to see a logical. We're using the word or, right? And this is reflected. Verified pin, pin verified. So this is reflected on this part of the flow diagram. Is this the same way I would do it? I would probably do it a bit differently just because I like things more vertically, or rather horizontally than vertically, but that's just a preference. The bottom line is that I can understand this process just as well as a horizontally laid out process, and I'll explain what that means later. Okay, so now we're getting down to our sequence diagram. I went ahead and downloaded this utility open source called Pencil. It is a highly recommended open source. It's a bit of a large download. I believe it's like a 4 gig download. So if you're worried about space, you might want to use something online like Lucidchart or Draw.io. But for the time being, I have this pencil downloaded to my local drive, and we're going to work with it. So let's go ahead and start with our flow chart here. I basically screen grabbed this guy just to portray our user, and what we're going to do is find a let's just look in common shapes, and we'll use a rectangle, make it real simple for us. And this is going to be our ATM. And what I'll do is probably increase the font a little bit, probably to 7. How's that? That looks good. And what we're going to do is do pretty much the same thing that Microsoft did, which was basically draw up this diagram in a vertical way. Um, I said I prefer horizontal, but in general, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is let's just get a flow chart going. So let's go ahead and drop another rectangle here. I'm going to make this guy skinny and long. And again, you could play with the colors. It doesn't have to be gray. I think gray is a default on here. That's not the guy I want. I wanted the rectangle. Oh my God. That guy did not want to go away. And I will not do my keyboard shortcuts. I'll go ahead and do the right click and show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to copy these and I'm going to go back to so we're in common shapes. I just want to go back to the flow chart. And let's go ahead and do a straight connect line. I know there's a way to make this guy a dotted line, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But for now, let's just say insert card. We're just following the basic use cases we've already constructed here. So let's just go ahead and do another straight connect line, and we'll start it. We'll actually start it here. And we will, oh, missed it. We'll push it here. But in this occasion, and this is key, the action is going to go from the ATM to the user. So we want to switch the arrow around, and let's go ahead and say ATM. Let's go ahead and skip the ATM accepts bank card. Those are lower level processes that have nothing to do with data processing. So let's just go ahead and say prompts for PIN. Okay. Now, once we say the prompts for PIN, then we could do another line. Let's go ahead and do it. Seems a little tedious, maybe fastidious, but I think it's better to just get her done. And this part is really fastidious. Okay. And we'll say user enters PIN. Okay. So at this stage, we have something that we could basically create a REST API for, right? The PIN and the entering of the PIN are both processes within this flow where we could probably create a REST API. So let's look at that next. All right, so now that we've created our diagram, and by the way, I want to be very clear, this is not a complete diagram. This is me kind of going off the cuff here, but just show you a way to complete these UML diagrams, which are um, part of the assignment itself, right? So let's just say you've completed this diagram thoroughly based on your use cases, which are right here. And now we're concerned about creating this Open API YAML file. So I've already done that. So let's go ahead and minimize all this. Now remember, this is the grading. So keep all this in mind. I'm only giving you a small percentage of what you need to do, but this is the pathway to get there, right? So this is the YAML file. It'll be easier for me to just point to the things point to the different parts, and point to the assignment. So OpenAPI specification. So we have OpenAPI information here, the info, the title of this particular REST API is going to be ATM pin request. The description is pin request from ATM to bank client. Version is 0.10. I think that's a good enough version as any. The URLs, right? We're going to have, I just made this up. So this URL does not exist. It was based actually on the YAML basic structure that's right here. So I just basically copied and pasted this and just edited right within Notepad. Really, no need for any fancy tools. Um, so the servers are denoted here. The first server is this URL, which has a REST API of pin request. Again, getting back to the whole pin request part. Um, the description pin request URL, a secondary URL. I named it bank.atm.request.com. Again, this is just a name I made from the top of my head. It doesn't mean anything. It's just something to keep mind of. And I set up a little description for that server as well. The paths. So within this server, we have a path called pin request. So that's part of the URL, right? And it's a GET request because it's requesting a pin and not really changing any data, right? So again, GET request. It's pretty much what you do in your browser when you dial up any website. That's just a basic GET request. It's not changing data on the tail end. I'm not changing any data on this assignment page. I'm just requesting it. You will need a post and a delete request within the confines of this YAML, right? So I'm just doing a simple pin request get. You will have to do a post and a delete. Actually, it includes at least two responses. So here's the response type. I only did one response, 200 status code, and a description. That's it. What you will have to do is another response type. In the assignment, it says 404 not found. There's other response types. We had a discussion in the class for 500. So you will have to do at least two response types for each and three response types for the delete. So get, post, and delete requests will have at least two response, three response for the delete. And this is the basic format. Again, all I did was just copy and paste from right here and elaborate from there based on the diagram and the use cases. This is extremely incomplete. This is just scratching the surface, but it's a pathway. Okay? So good luck to you. And you know what? I'll see you Friday probably. I'll be quietly in the background.